Have you ever heard someone say that Emperor Constantine invented the Trinity? Or that the Council of Nicaea decided which books would be included in the New Testament canon? Or that Christianity was fundamentally changed by vote in 325 AD? Those claims have become incredibly popular online. The problem is that none of them are true. Today we're going to look at what actually happened at the Council of Nicaea, why it was called, what was debated, and why it still matters for Christians today. The year was 325 AD. Christianity had just emerged from nearly 3 centuries of persecution. Only a little more than a decade earlier, Christians could be imprisoned, tortured, or executed simply for refusing to worship the Roman gods. But everything changed after Emperor Constantine came to power. In AD 313, Constantine and Licinius issued the Edict of Milan, granting legal toleration to Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. For the first time, Christians could gather publicly without fear of persecution. But just as external persecution was fading, a major theological controversy threatened to divide the church from within. At the center of that controversy was a presbyter from Alexandria named Arius. Arius taught that the Son of God was not eternal. According to Arius, only the Father had always existed. Before creation, God brought the Son into existence as the highest and greatest of all created beings. Arius even summarized his teaching with a memorable slogan: "There was a time when the Son was not." In other words, there was a time before creation when the Son of God did not exist. But this stood in direct tension with passages like John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. Now, Arius certainly believed Jesus was exalted above every other creature. He believed Jesus created the world, ruled over creation, and deserved extraordinary honor. But he denied that the Son shared the Father's eternal divine nature. To Arius, Jesus was divine only in a secondary or derivative sense, not God in the fullest meaning of the word. This teaching spread rapidly. Many bishops rejected it immediately, while others sympathized with Arius or hoped for some sort of compromise. The disagreement quickly spread beyond Egypt and threatened the unity of churches throughout the empire. Constantine was not a theologian. In fact, he became quite frustrated and dismayed that the church was having internal Christian disputes and viewed them as trivial, insignificant words. His greatest concern was maintaining peace and unity within the empire. For that reason, he called an empire-wide council of bishops to settle the controversy once and for all. That meeting became known as the Council of Nicaea. Between 250 and 318 bishops attended the Council of Nicaea. Most came from the eastern half of the Roman Empire, where Christianity was strongest. Many of these bishops still bore the scars of persecution on their bodies. Some had lost eyes, others had crippled hands. Some walked with permanent injuries from imprisonment and torture. These were not politicians inventing a new religion. Many had suffered tremendously for the faith that they already believed in. The central question before the council was remarkably simple. Who is Jesus? More specifically, is the Son fully and eternally God? Or is he the highest created being? The bishops examined Scripture, discussed theology, and debated the language necessary to protect what Christians had long confessed about Christ. One word became especially important to the debate: Homoousios. It means of the same essence or of the same substance. The council declared that the Son is of the same essence as the Father. In other words, The Son is not merely similar to God. He truly shares the eternal nature of God himself. This language became part of what we now call the Nicene Creed. The Creed affirms that Jesus Christ is God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, being of one substance or essence with the Father. Notice those words carefully. Begotten, not made. The Son is not part of creation. He is eternally generated by the Father. Gregory of Nazianzus compared it to the sun, that giant ball of plasma in our solar system. As long as the sun has existed, it has always radiated light. There was never a moment when the sun existed that its light did not exist. In a similar way, although the analogy is imperfect, the Son has eternally proceeded from the Father. For this reason, the Creed also directly rejected Arius' teaching by condemning statements such as, "There was a time when the Son was not." Now, here's something many people misunderstand. The Council of Nicaea did not invent the deity of Christ. Christians had been worshiping Jesus as Lord from the very beginning. The New Testament repeatedly calls him God, attributes creation to him, depicts worship being directed toward him, and applies Old Testament passages about Yahweh directly to Jesus. Long before Nicaea, church fathers such as Ignatius of Antioch, Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, Tertullian, and Origen all described Christ in profoundly divine terms, even though they sometimes used different theological vocabulary. What Nicaea did was provide precise language to defend what the church already believed and what Scripture clearly taught against a new challenge. The council also did not decide which books belonged in the New Testament. By the time of Nicaea, most churches already recognized the vast majority of the New Testament books. That question wasn't even on the council's agenda. In fact, it wasn't even formally discussed. The bishops gathered to address the Arian controversy. Nicaea itself made no official list of New Testament books. That popular claim simply has no basis in the historical record. The council did also address several other matters. It established a common method for calculating the date of Easter. It issued a number of canons dealing with church discipline, the restoration of believers who had lapsed during persecution, and standards for bishops and clergy. These were important administrative decisions, but they've largely been overshadowed by the Christological controversy. So did the council completely end the debate? Not at all. This controversy continued for decades. Several emperors later favored Arian or semi-Arian positions. Some bishops who defended Nicene theology were exiled multiple times. Perhaps the most famous was Athanasius of Alexandria, who spent much of his ministry defending the Nicene faith despite repeated political opposition. It would take many years and another major council at Constantinople in 381 AD before Nicene theology became firmly established throughout the church. So, why does Nicaea still matter? Because it forced the church to answer one of the most important questions in history. Who is Jesus Christ? If Jesus is merely a created being, then he cannot fully reveal or reconcile us to God. He cannot possess the fullness of God's nature, and he cannot give what he does not have. And the worship offered to him throughout Christian history would be misplaced. But if Jesus is truly God the Son, eternal, uncreated, and one in essence with the Father, then the worship of Christ stands at the very center of the Christian faith. Nicaea did not create that belief. It clarified it. It defended what Christians already believed. and it gave the church language that Christians across many traditions continue to confess nearly 1,700 years later. The Council of Nicaea wasn't about reinventing Christianity. It wasn't about choosing the books of the Bible, and it wasn't about giving Jesus a status he had never possessed before. It was about defending what the church believed Scripture taught concerning the identity of Christ. And understanding what actually happened helps us separate history from the myths that continue to circulate today. Hey, my name's Blake, and if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and let me know in the comments below. Which common myth about early church history do you want me to tackle next? Draw near to God, and He'll draw near to you. God bless.